Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Wednesday. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. Locked and loaded for the next 2 hours. Matthew Brune of On 3 going to come on in 15 minutes to talk about LSU's basketball team as well as a breakdown of Deuce Chestnut, LSU's newest cornerback. Matthew did a lot of film study on him and want to get his thoughts on what he saw from LSU's newest corner. Get some SEC power rankings via basketball this time of year. Where does LSU stand after last night? LSU relief pitcher recognized by D1 Baseball. We'll talk about that at the end of the hour. I want to talk about the quarterbacks that are in these NFL playoffs on the AFC side and the NFC side in hour number 2. And then we'll have kind of back-to-back college football overviews from different perspectives. We'll get Pete Fiutak from College Football News to come on at 2:15. Then JD PicKell of On 3 with us every Wednesday. We're going to move him back to 2:30 as opposed to 1:15. JD, I think, traveling from LA today, so we'll get JD at 2:30 before we play a little bit of Take It or Leave It. But unfortunately, first things first, got to get to LSU Fighting Tiger basketball. Tigers fall last night inside the PMAC, 67-56 to Florida. And if you listened yesterday, I talked about these two programs kind of being in a similar spot. First-year head coach, heavy transfer rosters, kind of mediocre in terms of talent. LSU played a really easy schedule, so the record's good. Florida played a pretty tough schedule. The record's not very good, but it should have been a pretty competitive game. And for about 35 minutes, it was pretty competitive, but Florida put their foot on LSU's throat and pushed it to double digits and did not let LSU make a run late in the game. And a disappointing loss, quite frankly, to Florida for LSU. That's a game on your home floor that you could win. They just didn't get it done. I was in the PMAC last night. Decent crowd for a Tuesday 6 o'clock tip for a team that doesn't necessarily have this town captivated at this point. But LSU just didn't play very well. I thought they did come out of the gate with good energy. I criticized their energy in College Station, and I don't do that very often. I think that's sometimes a lazy thing when your team gets beat. Well, it came out flat, didn't try. Well, sometimes the game plan might stink. Sometimes they might just get beat by a better team. Sometimes you just don't catch some breaks. I didn't like the energy in College Station. I liked the energy to start this game. Not just the score being 7-0, but LSU came out and they were defending. They were closing out on three-point shooters. They had a couple of possessions where Florida had to swing the ball around and then pull it out, and the crowd kind of acknowledged that. I thought LSU came out with a sense of urgency in the game, but Florida completely erased the lead. It was 7-0. They went on a 7-0 spurt right there. But after they went on that 7-0 spurt, LSU did what I've been asking to do for a week now, and that's throw the ball to KJ Williams on the block. And when Florida was on a 7-0 run, LSU throws the ball down to KJ Williams. He takes it right at Colin Castleton, hits a little jump hook in the lane. They throw it right back to KJ Williams on the block the next time down the floor. He gets the angle, he seals it, puts it up off the glass, and gets 4 quick points. He's got to be the stopper for you, and he was in that instance in the game. LSU relied on the three a little bit much last night, and maybe that's because Colin Castleton is a shot blocker at the rim, leads the Southeastern Conference. Alex Fudge is a presence down there with his length and athleticism, and maybe LSU didn't think they could get a lot of good looks around the rim, so they wanted to shoot some more threes. But when your last 8 shots of the half are all threes, that's a little bit too much for my liking. LSU 1 of 8 on those last 8 shots of the half, all threes. In the first half, the defense was pretty good. You hold Florida to 8 of 28 shooting. That's 29%. They were 3 of 17 from behind the arc. That's 18%. But you held them to those putrid offensive numbers, and yet you only had a 3-point lead at 28-25 because your offense wasn't very good. You did get a nice little shot in the arm from Tyrell Ward. He hits 2 threes. We haven't seen him in a month. And he was a 5-star prospect. You bring him in, hope he can be a key contributor on the team. He's not, but you had Cam Hayes out, so you've got to fill those minutes, and they asked Tyrell Ward to do it. I got a few texts after the game saying, hey, Tyrell Ward's got to be in there. He's got to play. And I don't totally disagree with getting him out here, but I did watch him while he was out there, and it's evident that the game's a little quick for him. He can knock down a shot, which is something LSU desperately needs. So, again, I'm not saying you can't play him, but he's not really involved in the offense that much. He's looking around a lot on defense. He kind of drifts a little bit to me. I'm just not 100% sold that he's some sort of panacea for this offense. I'm willing to give it a look, but I'm a little bit skeptical of that. I want him around in the program long term. You're going to lose a lot of guys that are getting big minutes on this team. So he's a talented player. He's 6'6". He can shoot a little bit. He's got some skills. I want him involved in the program. I'm hesitant to say he's going to come out and be a real difference maker offensively for this team. But it was nice to see him hit 2 threes. In the second half, LSU was 0 of 11 from three-point range. Missed every three they took in the second half. They turned it over 9 times in the second half. That led to 11 Florida points. And they let Florida shoot 22 free throws. Florida was aggressive. They were on the attack. LSU doesn't really have rim protectors. And they drew a bunch of contact and made a bunch of free throws. They were 18 of 22 in the second half alone. Florida also, in part of their parade to the free throw line and attacking the rim, was 9 of 12 from 2-point range in the second half. Their offense was far more efficient. They got far better looks. LSU, for the most part, settled. And for the game, LSU was 5 of 28 from the three-point line. Juice Hill, 1 of 7. KJ Williams, been your best offensive player, really good three-point shooter, 1 of 9 last night. And Adam Miller goes 1 of 8. If you get 3 for 24 from those 3 guys, you're in big trouble. And LSU was in big trouble, and they only scored 56 points. Castleton was way too much to handle. They had no real answer for him. I was impressed early in the game with KJ's ability to kind of guard him one-on-one. I thought he did a pretty good job. But LSU couldn't guard him in the second half. And it wasn't field goals. He had 2 huge ones late when LSU was making a last-ditch effort to try to get in the game. But he was 12 of 15 from the line. He's been a thorn on LSU's side. He's a really good player. He's going to make a lot of money playing pro basketball. Unfortunately for him, he's probably going to have to invest in some Google Translate or Babbel or something, Rosetta Stone. I think he's going to be somewhere overseas. But he's going to make a lot of money playing basketball because he's got some skill and he's really tall. He's not very athletic, but he's got some skill and he's really tall. And he was great last night. He's been great just about every time LSU has seen him, and he certainly was in the game. You look at Juice Hill, and there's something that I want to kind of talk about, and it's not an indictment on Juice Hill at all. It's just a function of LSU's offense and where they're limited, and I'll kind of lay it all out there. I mean, Juice Hill in SEC games is 1 of 12 from 2-point range. And he's also 0 of 3 from the free throw line. He just got to the free throw line 1 time, and he missed all 3 of them. That was the Arkansas game. So when you don't get fouled and cannot finish at the rim, and he's trying. He's made some adjustments. He's a good athlete. He raises up. He had one where he tried to get up real quick last night, trying to get it by the defender, who's obviously taller than him. Didn't make it. He's making adjustments. He's trying. But he's not finishing at the rim. He's 1 of 12 from 2, and he's not getting fouled. So his drives are not helping LSU. When your point guard's drives are not of any value, that's a huge deal on offense. Adam Miller has not really been a 2-point shooter. He's been basically just a 3-point shooter. It's a really important skill to have, but it's basically all he's got. Trey Hannibal can't shoot a 3, so teams sag way off of him. When Florida was switching every screen in the game last night, it's such a disadvantage when Hannibal's got the ball and they switch and the guy just sags way off. And Trey, pulled up at the free throw line for 1 shot, but you don't have your driving players and ball handlers really only function one way. Miller's just basically a shooter. Hannibal's only a driver. Juice doesn't do much when he does drive. These are your primary ball handlers, and they've got serious flaws. And that'll get it done at Murray State. It just doesn't against Colin Castleton and Alex Fudge in Florida. It doesn't against Oscar Sheboy in Kentucky. It doesn't in College Station. So, Man's got his work cut out for him. I think they'll get better. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom around this season right now because they lost at A&M and they lost to Florida at home, and those are winnable games. But we were prepared for this. You saw the schedule. The beginning of SEC play was not going to be very much fun. I said if they could find a way to get 3 wins. They're hard to find. I'll grant you that. But if you can find a way to get 3 wins before the last 7, that puts you at 3-8, mind you. Then I think you've got a chance to finish respectably. So last night is disappointing. You hope to win that game. That's one you could identify that they could win. But they didn't. You're going to have to flip one somewhere. I don't know that we thought they were going to beat Arkansas. They did. But we were prepared for this. Like, this was coming. And now it's here. And this team's got to bow its neck. They got to pack about 3 lunches for what they're getting on Saturday with Alabama. But last night was disappointing, and it's the offense that's letting them down. The defense was not all that bad. Florida shot 39.6% for the game, so 40% from the floor. They were 20% from 3. You just got them to the free throw line too many times, and your offense couldn't bail you out. And they're going to have offensive issues all year. Sometimes they'll make shots. Miller's not going to go out there every single league game and give you 1 of 8. KJ's not going to go 1 of 9 very often from 3. But when that happens, they're about out of options. And that's what you saw last night. We'll get Matthew Brune of On 3 Sports thoughts on it when we return. He was there last night inside the PMAC. We also want to get his thoughts on Deuce Chestnut, the LSU corner. And we'll talk some SEC basketball and do some power rankings a little bit later before we get to a lot of football in the hour number 2. We'll have Pete Fiutak of College Football News. We'll have JD PicKell of On 3. We still got a lot to get to. Hang with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on a new 2022 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for 72 months. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Start your day with news and newsmakers. Start your day with traffic, weather, and local stories that are important to you. Kickstart your day every day. Mornings with Brian Haldane from 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on Talk 107.3.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from Barbecue.
Coming up on Thursday's OTB. How did the Bad News Birds fare in their trip to Boston? Plus, get ready for Kim Mulkey's squad to dominate once again. And Theo Vaughn stops by. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here inside the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio on a Wednesday, Hunt Palmer Show with you here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Shout out to Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew Brune of the Bengal Tiger on 3 joins us. Talk some hoops. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Had to go get some shots up this morning to try to erase what I watched last night.
Yeah, you saw a lot of shots last night. They just didn't go in very often for either team. You saw Tyrell Ward knock down a couple shots in the first half. Any reason to believe that he'll get some extended minutes when Cam Hayes comes back?
I mean, the coaches have obviously seen a lot more than we have, right, in practice, and they've seen his limitations and how much he needs to develop. I think coming out of high school, we knew he was kind of a little bit more of a project than maybe some other 4 or 5-star guys. And maybe they were okay with that because this is a rebuild. But he's definitely talented. He's definitely skilled. The problem is putting it all together. And I think on a team that needs so much offensive help, I think they have to give him a shot in most games.
What did you think of the quality of the shots that LSU took? Clearly they didn't make very many of them, but do you think they're getting the shots they need?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because Cam Hayes didn't play, and that is a big factor in their diversity on offense. You know, without him, they had to start Trey and Juice Hill, and that's just not a combination you want to see very often. Florida did a good job kind of making them uncomfortable, but they also weren't pressuring them the way A&M did. We saw A&M force a lot of turnovers. LSU was able to get shots up in this game. I thought the looks were decent. They just don't have shooters on this team, especially when Cam Hayes isn't on the court.
Yeah, it's and then when you have KJ Williams, who has been a shooter for you all year, and he goes 1 for 9 from deep, it's just going to be one of those nights, I think. What did you think of LSU's defense last night?
It was good. It was good. In the first half, I thought they played to the script. They forced Florida to take more threes than what Florida usually takes. But in the second half, McMahon talked about it a little after the game. Florida went 9 of 12, I believe, from inside the arc, and I think was 11 of 20 overall from the field in the second half, and just got to the free throw line 32 times on the night, doubled up LSU. They got really aggressive in the second half, and we saw a limitation that I talked about a lot coming into the year. They don't have rim protection. They had 0 blocks on the night, and Florida had 32 free throws. I think that's a pretty telling statistic right there.
Yeah, that's jarring. I didn't actually realize it was that bad. Matthew Brune is our guest from the Bengal Tiger on 3, covers the LSU basketball squad. Look, what can they do on offense to create some more points?
Well, first they have to get Cam Hayes back, and I think that he's expected to be back in the coming game. McMahon said he was questionable coming into this game. I guess they didn't see him progress as quickly as they wanted to, so they held him out, which is okay. But the problem is the schedule gets really tough from here, which we can look at later. But offensively, I think you have to run a lot more through KJ Williams. I mean, he kind of has to be the focal point of this offense because there's not enough dribble penetration. The only guy who can penetrate off the dribble is Trey Hannibal, and as much as I loved what he did in those first 2 games, I think that might have been a little bit of fool's gold there. I don't think he can be that efficient most nights. So you have to get KJ touches on the block, on the 3, and in different spots, and then kind of work off of him and hope Adam and Cam can shoot.
You're around these guys a couple times a week. As the fan base, we understood looking at this schedule, it was going to be real bumpy in the start. If they could keep their head just below the surface of the water, maybe they could come up for air the last 7 games. What do you think the mentality of this team is now that they've taken some lumps?
Yeah, McMahon, was clearly frustrated last night, and as most people would be if they watched their team shoot 32%. But I think that there was a little bit of disappointment because of how important that game was to them. The schedule coming ahead is just not favorable at all. It's a very front-heavy SEC schedule here, so their next 6 games are going to be against ranked opponents pretty much, and then after that it loosens up a bit. But this is a game that they had to win. Florida was not looking good to this point. You get them at home, and you end up laying an egg, and that's a really disappointing thing. But we'll see how they bounce back. They do have some veterans, but one of the question marks coming into the year for McMahon was vocal leadership because they're not an overly loud, vocal team. So we'll see if that leadership can step forward and kind of hold the rope for a bit because, like you said, if they can just hang in there for a bit, the back half of the schedule can open up some opportunities.
Got any advice for them on Saturday?
Hope Alabama doesn't make shots. But no, yeah, the Tide are really, really long. They're real athletic. They are very aggressive offensively. They got Brandon Miller, one of the best players in the SEC in the country. You got to hope Cam Hayes is back. They're going to have to play excellent defense without fouling and hope their shooters can make shots because that's ultimately kind of what this team is going to have to base everything around of Cam and Adam and KJ making shots.
You're a basketball guy. What do you make of the situation in Lexington, Kentucky right now?
Ooh, yeah, I had that game on a little bit as the LSU game was going on, and I was just waiting to see if Kentucky could come back. They cut it to 3, and then they ended up losing like that. It's really tough because I couldn't see them firing Cal at the end of the year considering the contract. It's kind of like a Jimbo situation. Obviously, they're a little bit more flexible than A&M is, but he has the number 1 recruiting class, I believe, coming in the 2023, and I just don't think Kentucky would move on, but it is jarring how bad they've been. Sheboy and Wheeler have their limitations, and they don't have a ton of depth, but still, there's too much talent on that team to lose to South Carolina.
The natives are restless up there in Lexington, that is for sure. We'll switch gears to football here before we let you go. I know you wrote a detailed breakdown on LSU's newest cornerback, Deuce Chestnut. What'd you see on tape from the Syracuse corner?
Yeah, he's not the biggest, 6 feet tall, under 200 pounds, but he is very active. He was a lot more targeted as a freshman than a sophomore. I think teams started realizing not to throw at him as a sophomore, but also Syracuse could not stop the run. And so that really limited the amount of balls that were thrown. So it wasn't a year where he had a lot of tape to put out. I watched all of the Wake Forest games, the Florida State game, the Purdue games, and he just wasn't thrown at a ton. They played a lot of soft zone, so that's obviously not as conducive for elite corners to really show what they got. So I think he's come to LSU hoping to put some more tape out, put some aggressive tape out to show that he can hold up in different situations like man and press man. But overall, he's really talented, really fast, really quick, good break on the ball, and I'm interested to see how he competes for that starting job.
Who do you think are the 2 starting cornerbacks for LSU against Florida State?
Denver Harris, and it's going to be a battle between Chestnut and Alexander, and then we'll see if they end up getting J.K. Johnson from Ohio State as a transfer as well. He hasn't officially committed, but he changed his Twitter bio. So we'll see when that becomes final. But I haven't looked into his tape yet. But I like Alexander. I would probably lean Chestnut at this moment just after watching their tape. But that'll be a good battle for that second corner spot.
Matthew, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime.
He's Matthew Brune from the Bengal Tiger on 3. Joins Shay Dixon, Billy Embody over there. Awesome site. Billy Embody made 1 year at On 3 as of today. So congrats to those guys. It's an awesome site. I've been hanging around there a little bit since I joined the team on the baseball side of things a few months ago, and they just put out an incredible amount of content. I mean, it's for one time you're talking about who they're going to get at the transfer portal, what kind of visits, all the rumors that are going on recruiting. Matthew's breaking down corners and covering basketball. It's a lot, and it's really good over there at the Bengal Tiger on 3. So if you get a chance to check that out, I highly would recommend. Still a lot to get to here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I want to talk about a left-handed pitcher for LSU who was recognized by D1 Baseball. That'll be at the end of this hour. I want to talk about the quarterbacks that are in the NFL playoffs and just the dichotomy between the AFC and the NFC. At the beginning of hour number 2, we'll have Pete Fiutak from College Football News recapping Georgia's national championship and the college football season as a whole. We'll do the same thing with JD PicKell of On 3 Sports at 2:30. So loads to get to in hour number 2. When we come back, I went back and looked at my SEC power rankings from last week and then had made one for this week. There are some significant moves over the last 7 days. So we'll get into that coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
This winter, meet the heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Season of Performance.
This winter, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the Integra.
Start your day with news and news makers. Start your day with traffic, weather, and local stories that are important to you. Kickstart your day every day. Mornings with Brian Haldane from 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on Talk 107.3.
Service Mastery Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Mastery Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Mastery Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
NFL Wild Card Weekend. Tune in Saturday when the 49ers host the Seahawks at 3:30 p.m., immediately followed by the Jaguars and Chargers at 7:15. Then on Sunday, the Bills host the Dolphins at noon, the Vikings host the Giants at 3:30, and the Bengals host the Ravens at 7:15. Right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
To me.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You just heard that promo from Mario a little bit earlier. A lot of wild card. Was it wild card weekend? Wild card. A lot of wild card weekend is going to be play-by-play right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. So if you're driving around town, want to be kept up with the latest goings on in the NFL playoffs, we got you covered right here. Also want to remind you to join former Tigers Aaron and Austin Nola for the 2023 Strikeout ALS Bowling event. The Nola brothers are teaming up once again to help raise critical funds and awareness for the fight against ALS. 2023 Strikeout ALS will be held at Red Stick Social a week from tomorrow, Thursday, January 19th from 5 to 10. You can purchase tickets at als.org/strikeoutals. All right, let's get into some power rankings here. Things have kind of been flipped on their head by a couple of results in the last 6-7 days. So nothing too violent up at the top, however. Got Alabama at number 1. I think Alabama is clearly the class of the SEC. They got a chance to put that on display again tonight as they'll play Arkansas in a little road test up at Bud Walton. But they're crushing people. They've won 3 SEC games by an average of 19.6 points per game. Nate Oates has put together a really, really strong club up there in Tuscaloosa. So they are number 1 in this week's power rankings, in my opinion. Tennessee's number 2. They do it a little bit differently. They do it with the defense. They are 14-2 on the season, 4-0 in league play. They got an easy early draw. So that's full disclosure on Tennessee. They are opening to SEC play as at Ole Miss, who stinks, Mississippi State, who can't score, at South Carolina, who stinks, and Vanderbilt, who stinks. So they're still a really good team. I think Rick Barnes is an awesome coach. He gets a little flack for some tournament performances. Second-round Rick, that's kind of a popular chorus, but he's put really good teams on the floor up in Knoxville. This one is elite defensively, as good as anybody in the country, so I've still got them at number 2. Somebody's got to be third. Like, I can't have power rankings with no third-place team. I think everybody else has some issues or is a little bit unproven. This may be a stretch, but I'm going to put Missouri at third. Again, someone's got to be there. They barely got by Vanderbilt, which is not super awesome, and their Kentucky win doesn't look quite as good as it did, but they're 13-2. They're 2-1 in the league. They score a lot of points. They're fun. I may have them at 8th next week. You never know, but right now I've got them at 3rd. I've moved Auburn up a little bit this week. I've got them at 4. They did beat Florida. They did beat Arkansas. Those are reasonable wins. Neither one of those teams is awesome. Arkansas is not what they thought they would be. And Florida's had its problems for sure. We got into those yesterday. They've lost a lot of games, quite frankly. But Auburn does have those 2 wins. These teams that I'm putting here feel like tournament teams right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had some bumpy spots in the season. I've got Arkansas at 5. Quite frankly, they should be 3. That's what they should be, but they're not because they don't have their best players and they don't have much depth. And right now they're 1-2 in the league. And that loss to LSU doesn't look very good. They had a chance for a statement win at Auburn. They got beat. So you thought looking at them, they'd be a top 3 team in the SEC. Right now, they're not. I've got them 5th. This may be a reputation play here. I'll be quite honest. But I see pieces, I see potential, and I see a team that's in big trouble. I see all of those. And that's Kentucky. I've got them at number 6. You could convince me they were 10, and I would listen. They're 10-6 on the year. They're 1-3 in league play. That loss last night was absolutely heinous. To lose to that South Carolina team, to be down by double digits almost the entire game on your home floor in a bounce-back spot after you got trounced in Tuscaloosa, questionable heart, horrible execution offensively, and now things are toxic in Lexington. But they still have good players. Toppin goes out. Okay. You should have some other guys that can step up and help you. And they just got punked. Wallace goes out. Okay. You should have some other guys that can step up and help you. You didn't. You got crushed. But because of the talent level, I got to put them at 6. And I can even lump Kentucky into this from 6 down, but certainly from 7 down, there are real question marks on all these. The league's middle is competitive, but questionable. I don't have many questions about Alabama or Tennessee. I think the top of the league is good. Once you get to the middle, there's some teams that are not very good. I got Mississippi State at 7th. They snapped a 3-game skid by beating Ole Miss, but they did start conference 0-3, and they can't really score. They guard you. That's good, but they don't score. But I've got them 7 because I got issues with everybody behind them. I'll put Texas A&M at 8. They were down near the bottom before they played LSU. But I look at A&M. They're 2-0 in the league. They beat Florida. They beat LSU. They shoot a ton of free throws. They play really hard. Most of the time they play good defense. I know. They've had some issues. They were losing at halftime to Northwestern State. They lost 5 non-conference games, which isn't very good. But, again, somebody's got to be there, so I've got them at 8. Florida moves up after last night to 9th. They're 2-2 in the league. They're a tough out because of Castleton. He can hurt you inside, and he can hurt you from the free throw line. He can hurt you on defense blocking shots. Their guards are transfers. Some days they're on, some days they're not. Fudge is a highlight wheel waiting to happen, but is not the most technically sound player out there. They've lost a lot of games. They're 9-7, but I've got them at number 9. I moved Georgia up a little bit. That Auburn win's a good win for Georgia. I know it was in Athens, but they still got that win. Terry Roberts leads them in scoring, leads them in assists. He's been good all year. I've got Georgia at 10, so that leaves LSU at 11th. LSU was pushing the top 6 last week. I've bumped them down 5 spots. That's what happens when you take on 2 of these mediocre teams I'm talking about in the middle of this conference that I don't think is very strong, and you get beat. And quite frankly, you got beat by double digits. Not that it was unexpected for LSU to lose some games. Not that it was unexpected for LSU to get off to a tough start in conference play, but the way it's looked when you just got outclassed by a mediocre A&M team, and then you had a game on your home floor and you lose by double digits to Florida, who's already lost 7 games. Can't do much better than 11th for LSU right now. Although, if I had to pick one of these last 4 teams to move up, it's LSU all day because they do have some ability, and some of last night was just a bad shooting night. But you don't crack 60. You don't get too much credit. So I got LSU at 11. I got Vanderbilt at 12. They are 8-8. They're 1-2 in league play. They're in the middle of a really tough stretch right now. They had a stretch that's at the front of conference play that was Missouri, Tennessee, Arkansas, Bama. That's tough sledding. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, if it gets better, for Jerry Stackhouse. There's some rumblings up in Nashville that some of these players aren't happy. Heard this through the grapevine. It may fall apart on Vanderbilt this year, but to this point it hasn't. We'll see if they can manage this really tough start at the beginning of conference play. They're number 12. I know they won in Rupp last night for the 3rd time ever, but I'm not going to move them above 13. They were 14th last week, but South Carolina is 13th for me right now. Nice win in Rupp. I know Kentucky was missing a couple of guys, but hey, you're not very good, so I'll give you some credit when something good happens. It's like Vanderbilt's football team this past season. Got to win? Hey, it's good. We don't expect much more out of you. South Carolina, I don't think is going to win 5 league games this year, but they did just win 1 in Rupp. So they're 8-8. They move up to 13th. And that puts the Ole Miss Rebels at 14th in my book. Look, they're leaning heavily on a transfer from Jackson State. That's never a great plan. They don't have much talent in the front court. Their backcourt's banged up, and they're losing a lot of games. They're 8-8 now, 0-4 in league play. And I was listening to Neil McCready and Chase Parham earlier today. They cover Ole Miss for Rebel Grove, part of the Rivals Network. And the tone with which they were talking suggested everybody kind of knows what's going on here. They're not going to win very many games. There's going to be a change. And I feel bad kind of talking about that because I think everybody around here that knew Kermit when he was here with John Brady, and he's a great guy. He's a really good basketball coach. Here's the deal with really good basketball coaches. They better have good players. He doesn't. You can't coach bad players. Listen to Kirby Smart talk. Says if you don't have really good players, you got no shot. And when you're at Middle Tennessee and you can beat up on Tennessee, Chattanooga, and whoever else you see in league play with everybody's got bad players. You can coach them. You go play Alabama. You go play Auburn. You go play Kentucky. You go play Arkansas. You're going to play good players. If you don't have them, you got no shot. And Kermit's pulled in a couple of decent guards, and injuries have hampered them, but 1-9, 1-8, they've been undermanned since he's been there. And he's just not a dynamic recruiter. And you just can't win like that. People have talked about Will Wade around here for a year, and then more than that when he was here. But, he's a bad bench coach. I don't believe that, for one. But two, he had good players. That's how you go 16-2 and win the league. That's how you make the tournament 3 times in a row. Would have been 4 if not for COVID. You get good players. Kermit's got bad players. He got beat last night by Bruce Pearl. Good players. So that's my power rankings. Bama 1, Tennessee 2. That's clearly the top. You got to drop off to Missouri at 3, Auburn at 4, Arkansas at 5. Then you kind of back up to Kentucky at 6. And at 6, you really drop off the teams that have some warts. Mississippi State at 7, A&M at 8, Florida at 9, Georgia at 10. LSU comes in the 11th spot in these power rankings. Vanderbilt at 12. South Carolina moves up to number 13. And Ole Miss at 14. The league is really good at the top, like I said. And then you start to talk about, Ole Miss isn't any good. South Carolina's not good. Vanderbilt stinks. LSU's got its problems. I don't think Georgia's very good either. Florida's lost 7 games. We talk about the SEC being a really tough basketball league, and it's better than it was. There's a lot of really good coaches. There's a lot of really good players. You add Texas and Oklahoma, it's going to be a war in the SEC in basketball season. But there are some teams on this schedule that you can beat. Sadly, LSU has played 2 of those over the last couple of days and has lost them both. So we'll see what the Tigers can do moving forward. Unfortunately, they've got the number 1 team in these perfectly correct power rankings to deal with on Saturday. So we'll get you ready for LSU and Bama coming up on Friday's show. Pete Fiutak and J.D. PicKell both talking college football in hour number 2. But first, let's come back and close out hour number 1, talking a little bit of baseball. LSU had a pitcher honored by D1 Baseball. I'll tell you who and why to close out hour number 1 next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
NFL's Wild Card Weekend is here, and the easiest way to get into the playoffs is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up with the promo code 1045ESPN. FanDuel's got all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. It's all in an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. So for football fans, don't miss out. Place your first bet with $5. You get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with the promo code 1045ESPN. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone who has a given problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. We'll recap LSU, Florida, and hoops, preview Pell, Celtics, and Moranto McKenzie in studio to preview the fight of the century. It's AFR 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We're just a couple of weeks away from having actual baseball to talk about. We're in list season at the moment, which is just baseball guys trying to put out content for people to read. I'm well aware of that. And so when LSU's Nate Ackenhausen is named the number 24 JUCO transfer in the country by D1 Baseball, who cares? No big deal. Whatever. But it affords me an opportunity to tell you about Nate Ackenhausen and the left-handed pitchers on this team. Remember last year, basically, Javen Coleman goes down early. That was a guy you were going to lean on from the left side. Riley Cooper was really your most dependable lefty and really the only lefty the staff trusted. Jacob Hasty went out there a little bit. They got Trey Shaver from Southeastern, but he wasn't going to be a high-leverage guy. Really, it was Cooper or nobody until Hasty came on late in SEC play. Not a ton of left-handed pitching. And I wouldn't suggest that this LSU team has a ton of left-handed pitching, but they do have more. And I think they've got some guys that can really help them from the left side, and they won't have to go to Cooper and Cooper and Cooper and Cooper. I know the guy's got a rubber arm, but it'd be nice to have some other guys come in and help him out. And Ackenhausen was named the number 24 JUCO transfer, as I mentioned. He's a guy that the staff, I think, does really like. And he showed some good stuff in the fall. When I saw him, he was sitting around 91, 92 from the left side, and he's got some real pitchability. He spins a breaking ball very well. He can throw a changeup. He's big. I think he's listed at 6'2", 240. So he's a guy that was a big strikeout guy in JUCO, 56 strikeouts in 28 innings. He started a bunch of games in JUCO, but he's going to be a reliever for this team, and I think he can absolutely be a factor against left-handed hitters this year. He'll be joined by Riley Cooper, who's going to be in there. He's effective against left-handers because he'll drop that thing down and he'll throw from up top. He'll spin the slider. He got a good enough fastball. It's in the low 90s. So he and Cooper I expect to be your top two left-handers. One guy that I think is worth talking about, though, is Griffin Herring, who was very good at the end of fall practice. He comes from Texas. He was a really, really dominant high school pitcher. I talked to the staff about why he got no draft buzz with his numbers as good as they were. I understand not all high school baseball is treated equally, but Dallas-Fort Worth area baseball is really good. And so for Herring to dominate the way he did, I thought he would get more draft buzz. He didn't. Certainly wasn't taken, and he comes to LSU. The reason there wasn't as much draft buzz, he doesn't have the big metrics that they look at, the spin rate, velocity, all that kind of stuff. He's more of an 89, 90 type guy that can sneak it up to 92 at times, but he was throwing a really good breaking ball, and he's got a good changeup. So those three guys, I think, give you significant help from the left side. They didn't trust Hasty to throw strikes all the time, and then Coleman went down. So it was really just Cooper. I think that these are going to be three guys they can trust from the left side. And there's going to be tons of bullpen options, guys that aren't tabbed to be starters. Who knows what happens with Christian Little or with Ty Floyd or, with Aiden Moffitt or with Blake Money or there's a lot of right-handed guys that may fill high leverage roles from the right side. But if you need a left-hander to come in there and get some left-handers out that are really tough in this league, I think there are three of them that LSU's got. I don't really care, again, that Nate Ackenhausen is the number 24 JUCO transfer by D1, but I do think that LSU is going to have some arms. Nick Bronzini is not a name I've heard a ton of. I know he's huge, and he's left-handed. Hopefully he blossoms into a stud and is a huge piece of this bullpen. I just haven't seen him or heard a ton about him to this point, so I'll do some checking before we get deep into baseball depth chart talk. But they theoretically could have four left-handed arms on this staff, which would be really, really good considering last year you really only trusted one of them. So let's look at old Nate Ackenhausen, number 24 JUCO transfer by D1 Baseball, left-handed arm for the Fighting Tigers of LSU. All right, that'll just about put a bow on hour number one. If you missed any of it, you can always catch all of our stuff on demand, 1045ESPN.com. We've got all the shows there on the on-demand tab. You click the on-demand tab on 1045ESPN.com. You can find them all right there, and my name will be right there. We also appreciate if you go into Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you prefer those two. We're there. You can like, subscribe, rate, review. All that helps us out a ton. And, of course, we always appreciate those of y'all hanging out on YouTube in the Bayou Ford chat. It is buzzing right now. If y'all could throw us a like, I would really appreciate that. Brent Semino in the Bayou Ford chat right now says, I hope this pitching holds up to the hype. I don't know that there's nearly as much hype around the pitching as there is around the offense, and I still have my questions about some of the pitching, specifically how it slots in the weekend rotation. None of these guys are super proven. There's talent all over the place, but how proven are they? We'll just have to see, and I think they'll look at some options in the starting rotation. But appreciate that for pitching in the Bayou Ford chat. If you missed hour number one, Matthew Brune from On 3 was with us at 1:15, talking about this LSU basketball team, what they can do better offensively. And then he also talked to us about Deuce Chestnut, LSU's newest corner from Syracuse. He did a deep dive on 3 about Chestnut, wrote a story on what kind of player LSU's getting. It was really, really good stuff. So I opened the show talking LSU and Florida and my reaction to last night in the PMAC, a tough loss for LSU. And then we got into our SEC power rankings for basketball. Tigers slotted at number 11 for me, but if you want to go back and listen to the whole thing, you can always do that on demand. Hour 2 is locked and loaded with football. So those of you that like to yell and scream at me, say football, 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 talk football, you're getting a lot of football in hour number 2. Pete Fiutak will join us from College Football News. I want to ask him about year one in the Brian Kelly era. I want to talk to him about Georgia and where their seat is at the college football table at this point. A lot to get to with Pete Fiutak, and we'll do the exact same type stuff with JD PicKell of 1-3 Sports. JD's usually with us in the first hour on Wednesdays, but today he had to travel back from L.A., so bumped us back to 2:30, but it's all good. Love chatting with JD from 1-3 Sports. He'll be with us at 2:30. And I'm going to open up the hour after SportsCenter talking about these quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs. Striking stuff. I've pulled some statistics, kind of grouping these into two groups, and it's really grouped out by conferences to an extent. So we'll start diving into the wild card weekend that's going to be coming at you starting on Saturday. It's a full weekend of NFL football from Saturday all the way through Monday Night Football. I got to find a way to watch the Bengals on Sunday, so that's priority number one. I got a bunch of people telling me about Peacock and whatnot. I got to figure something out because my NBC doesn't work, and that's simply not going to get it done. So tons of football to get to in hour number 2, and we always finish things up with Take It or Leave It. We will certainly do that as we get on down the road. Hope your Wednesday is going awesome. Halfway through the work week. We can get there. Working towards the weekend. We'll have SportsCenter coming right up. Come back with us. You're listening to the Capital City's leader in sports talk. 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Start your day with news and newsmakers. Start your day with traffic, weather, and local stories that are important to you. Kickstart your day every day. Mornings with Brian Haldane from 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on Talk 107.3.
Service Mastery Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Mastery Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Mastery Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana Loyal. Always.
This is SportsCenter. I'm Kevin Winter. News are following on SportsCenter.
Tua has not been cleared by doctors to resume football activities on the field with his teammates.
And because of that, Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel has ruled starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa out for Sunday's wildcard game against the Buffalo Bills. He is still in concussion protocol. Miami is prepping to go with third-string quarterback Skylar Thompson, and because of that, the point spread at Caesars has jumped from Buffalo -9 to 12.5. Speaking of the Bills, Damar Hamlin has been discharged from Buffalo General today. He's going home 9 days after almost dying on the field in Cincinnati because of cardiac arrest. Third time is the charm for shortstop Carlos Correa, passing a physical with the Twins today, and the team that made it official, re-signing Correa to a 6-year, $200 million deal, according to Jeff Hassett. This follows deals from the Giants, the Mets, nope, that were agreed upon but never finalized because of injury concerns. NBA doubleheader tonight on ESPN television kicks off 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll start in Atlanta. The Bucks and the Hawks close it out in Denver with the Suns taking on the Nuggets.
We all know the game isn't over till it's over. So next time you need parts for your car, don't call it quits. Go to eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts to take your car into overtime. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Wednesday. Hope your work week is awesome. Hanging out here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hunt Palmer with you until 3 o'clock. Pete Fiutak, college football news in 15 minutes. Then JD PicKell of On 3 Sports at 2:30. I'm going to talk a little NFL football here as the playoffs are upon us. Busy week of NFL football coming up. Have you taken just a look at the quarterbacks in the playoffs this year? Have you seen the ones in the AFC? Patrick Mahomes, the 1 seed Chiefs. Josh Allen, 2 seed Buffalo. Joe Burrow of the Bengals, it's the 3 seed. 4 seeds in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. 5 seed is the Chargers. They've got Justin Herbert. No significant word out of Baltimore, but theoretically it could be Lamar Jackson. And then Miami would have Tua. He has not been cleared, so it'll be Skylar Thompson. One of these not like the other, obviously. But Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lawrence, Hebert, Jackson is a pretty strong start with your first 6 seeds. Now let's flip it on over to the National Football Conference. You got Jalen Hurts, who's banged up. You got Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins. You like that? Tom Brady, good, a little old. Dak Prescott, Taylor was talking about him yesterday. Leads the NFL in interceptions, missed 5 games, not great. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith. This collection of quarterbacks stinks. It was my take in August. I was looking at this, I was like, I don't think the NFC is very good. And I look at these quarterbacks and I'm like, goodness gracious, who am I supposed to trust here? I know Hurts was going to win the MVP. I got Brady, greatest of all time. Cousins throws for a lot of yards. Dak's had his moments. Geno Smith played great football this year, they say. Broke Russell Wilson's passing yardage record in Seattle. But come on, man. This group of quarterbacks is awful, comparatively speaking. If you look at the AFC's quarterbacks and you take out Skylar Thompson, I'm fudging the numbers a little bit. I know. Just go with me. You take out Skylar Thompson. The average draft position is 9.5. You got 2 Heisman trophies with Burrow and Lamar. You've got 2 number 1 overall picks, Burrow, Lawrence. You're about to have 3 total MVP awards when Mahomes wins the second one here. Of course, you know that Lamar's got that. I mean, Mahomes went 10th, Allen went 7th, Burrow went 1st, Lawrence went 1st, Herbert went 6th, Lamar went 32nd. Then you throw Skylar Thompson in there, went 247th. It kind of throws your numbers off a little bit. But those guys have massive amounts of career accomplishments. Jalen Hurts, 53rd pick. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. He was 267nd. Kirk Cousins, 4th rounder, 102nd overall. Tom Brady, I mean, that guy stinks, went in the 6th round. It helps my numbers. Dak Prescott, 4th rounder, 135th in the draft. Danny Dimes. I just said Dak, and Taylor says too high. Shouldn't have taken him in the 4th there. Guy's throwing for 1,000,000 yards. You got him in the 4th round. 4th round picks usually get cut. Danny Dimes went 6th. He's helping the numbers here. He stinks, but he helps the numbers. And then Geno Smith, 2nd round pick. Their average draft position: Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. Their average draft position is 114th overall. 114th picks don't even make the roster. So, Taylor, you can open your mic here. Does that make you feel any better about the boys' chances playing in this conference with these bunch of bums?
No, because the only one that's not a bum is who Dallas gets first round. Tom Brady's going to destroy Dallas on Monday night. Everybody knows this. I've accepted it now. He did it in week 1, and what did I tell you? I said, Hunt, please stop picking the Cowboys. Stop betting against Tom Brady. He's going to make you pay for it, or he's going to make me pay for it. I should say he's going to do it all over again.
I think my bet against Tampa went pretty well this year. Their record was awful. Yeah?
Yeah, but week one, everybody was writing them off. They're going to do the same thing again. Tom Brady's going to win.
They went out to the West Coast, got smacked around by San Francisco, couldn't score on the Saints until the last 2 minutes.
He's never had a losing season. He is 8-9 right now.
A little bit of this is a bit, but to put in perspective, I just think the AFC dwarfs the NFC. And if I look at this, I would take, before I took any of the NFC quarterbacks, including Tom Brady, I would take Mahomes, I would take Allen, I would take Burrow, I would take Lawrence. For sure 4. I start to think about it with Herbert and Lamar, especially with Lamar being hurt and no chance on Skylar Thompson. And I know that Cousins throws for lots of yards, and I know that Hurts played great this year, and their system's chugging along, and they're scoring a ton of points, and they were the best team in the league without him. But I just feel like the AFC's got the dudes, and it's a disappointing thing for me as a bandwagon Bengals fan to look around the league and be like, I got to deal with these guys every year when you get to the playoffs. And I think it's going to make for great theater for the fan to have Kansas City and Buffalo and Cincinnati. Maybe Jacksonville makes a push with Trevor Lawrence. Maybe the Ravens have been good under Lamar. It's going to make for great playoff games. I wonder if the legacies might take a little bit of a hurt because you're going to get beat. I mean, Brady, you had it a little bit with Brady and Manning and Roethlisberger in their heyday. So maybe it's apples to apples there. That was AFC too. But it just, the NFC looks extremely navigable. And the question here is, because the 49ers are white hot. They won 10 games in a row. Their roster's so good, it's very obvious that John Lynch has got a pretty good feel for what he's doing over there. But can Brock Purdy do this? When he came into the game, when Garoppolo went out, I said on the Monday edition of this show, there's no way Brock Purdy is going to lead this team anywhere. And then you start to watch, and it's like, maybe. And then you go through this exercise, and you go, well, maybe he just has to beat Kirk Cousins. Maybe he's got to beat Geno Smith, Daniel Jones. Well, then it starts to be like, well, maybe. Like, I feel a lot better than that. If they had to play in back-to-back weeks Buffalo and Cincinnati, I'd go, well, I don't think so. But they don't. They play these guys. So it may be that Brock Purdy can get to a Super Bowl. We still think of it as a quarterback-driven league. Niners are trying to buck that a little bit. And even the Super Bowl champions whose quarterbacks are not Hall of Famers and MVPs, Foles, Flacco, even those teams, those guys played really well in the playoffs. And that's what it's going to take in the NFC side. One of these guys is going to have to do it. And then on the AFC side, it's just going to be an absolute bloodbath for 4 weeks, which is going to be super exciting to watch and a lot of fun to talk about as well. But it's just shocking to see how loaded the AFC is with quarterbacks, and then look at the NFC roster and go, that looks brutal. Average selection in the draft, 114th overall, and that's with a drag down from Daniel Jones, who was 6th overall. Crazy, crazy stuff from a quarterback perspective. Let's switch gears to college football. Pete Fiutak covers college football for College Football News. Does an awesome job. Always enjoy our conversations with Pete. He will join us next on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford. Check out that website, BayouFord.com. I tell you all the time that they've got 6 full-time drivers on staff at Bayou Ford. Whether it's from the service perspective or whether you get a new car delivered, they're here to make it as convenient as possible. So how awesome is it that you can just go online, customize a vehicle with the help of Ben Gagne and his team, and when it comes in within 60 to 90 days, one of those full-time drivers will drive it right to you. Right up to your front door. Here's your new ride. You might look at the Bayou Ford and go, wait, where is it? That's not near my house. That's all right. They got drivers. They can help you on a service perspective too. They will bring you a loaner, come get your vehicle, bring it back to the dealership. They'll service that vehicle. You get on about your day. Take the kids to school, get them to practice, get to work, use that loaner, and then when it's done, they'll drive your car, done with that service, right to your home. They'll take the loaner right on back to Bayou Ford. Convenience is paramount for Ben Gagne and his team down there at Bayou Ford, and that's why we're so thrilled to have them as a partner here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Check out the inventory. The website is BayouFord.com. Bayou Ford, where they're going to do right by you.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Before we begin any electrical work here, we perform a home safety check that begins at your electrical panel to make sure that you and your family are safe. For all your upgrades, installations, and repairs, call Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Start your day with news and newsmakers. Start your day with traffic, weather, and local stories that are important to you. Kickstart your day every day. Mornings with Brian Haldane from 6 to 9.
Coming up on Thursday's OTB. How did the Bad News Birds fare in their trip to Boston? Plus, get ready for Kim Mulkey's squad to dominate once again. And Theo Vaughn stops by. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Chugging right along here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Pete Fiutak of College Football News joins us. Pete, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How you doing?
Doing very well. Hadn't spoken to you since LSU took Purdue out behind the woodshed and beat them because they didn't have any players left. But what do you make of Brian Kelly's year one in Baton Rouge now that the dust has settled?
Yeah, you're a little grouchy that Georgia kind of won up the greatest, the biggest bowl win of all time. Like that.
That's apples to apples.
Ugly.
Yeah, the Citrus Bowl with no players versus the national championship game.
I think you and I are probably the only two people who actually watched it with the other games that were going on at that time. But look, but that's what you want to see out of this. That's what you want to see out of the first year under Brian Kelly, where how fast could he rebuild this thing up and give LSU fans hope for what's coming down the pike. And look, you got to the SEC championship. You got to win over Alabama, and you got a completely dominant bowl win over a team that went to the Big Ten championship game. So, look, it's not fun when you're seeing Georgia do that. Alabama's still good, and the rest of the SEC is still great. But that's a great first season under Brian Kelly. You'll take that and realize you can build out from there.
All right, let's go out to L.A. 65-7. What is the biggest takeaway from that?
Look, there's a life lesson to be learned here that, look, as long as you work hard and you do everything right, you can dream and get, maybe someday you'll get your shot to go get completely annihilated by someone with more talent. Look, that was never supposed to happen. Look, there's a reason. This is not college basketball where you can get a team that gets hot from three and finds its way in and can pull off a national championship, or baseball where you get a hot pitcher or goalie, or hockey where you get a goalie that stands on its head. You just don't get. You can't win. Kind of luck your way into two good performances in a tournament like that if you don't have the talent. And Michigan just flat choked. They just did. They for whatever reason, they should have been up 21-3. Tried their Philly special stuff. Their defense opted out at halftime and still almost pulled that off. And so there's just games like that when you get teams that talented, like a Georgia, like an Ohio State, like an Alabama, like LSU when it's really rock and rolling. The teams with the NFL talent, when they're fully focused, forget it. You can't beat them if you're a team like TCU, which is, bless your heart, cutesy and all, but just don't have the 4- and 5-star guys that the superpower college football teams have when they're rocking and rolling.
We saw Michigan and Georgia last year. Do you think it would have gone differently this time around had Michigan not, as you said, it choked?
It wouldn't. It certainly would not have been. I don't think it would have been as bad as last year. And it certainly would have not have been the worst bowl game of all time. But they still would have lost. There's no one who's beaten Georgia that day. Again, that's a team where they knew what they were, how good they could be, and when they were fully focused and fully good, they got past the one big hump, which was an Ohio State team, which had the NFL talent to match them guy for guy. And look, I know the narrative now is, oh my gosh, Georgia's going to three-peat and this is some unstoppable dynasty and stuff. Now, if Noah Ruggles' kick goes straight, Georgia's a footnote. I mean, it just so happened that this happened to be Georgia's turn. Next year it might be Alabama's turn or LSU's turn, or even crazy enough, considering the talent level, Bobby Petrino there, maybe it's Texas A&M's time for that talent to all come together. So Georgia had a great season, and they got their 2 championships, and they're going to be in the discussion for every year. But I'm not going to say they're automatically the number one team going into the next year or anything.
I want to go big picture, continue that way, but you just mentioned Texas A&M there with Bobby Petrino. You're on board with that hire?
Sure. I mean, they've got to bust out of this offensive style, and that's the problem with Texas A&M. This is why I never bought into them as like a top 6 team coming into the year. Is I kept asking everyone, who are the skill guys? Where's your Bryce Young? Where are your true NFL dominant wide receivers like LSU always has? Or where's the offensive line that's to the level of what Georgia's going to bring? They just don't have the offense. They just didn't. And that slow and go control tempo style is nice and all, but there's zero margin for error. And there just wasn't enough explosion in a conference and a game now that you need to be able to come out and put 30 points on the board without, really blinking. So at least the offense should be able to pick up. But again, it seems crazy considering how bad Texas A&M was. But again, how did Georgia get here? It was year after year after year of top 5 recruiting classes. And that just over time just kind of builds up the base, and that's what Texas A&M has been able to do. Now they got to do something with all this talent.
And obviously that's what it takes to win. We're on the same page there. As far as crowning a national champion, and then on the other side, having teams like TCU and Washington and Michigan State qualify for the playoff, while a 2-loss Alabama team that lost in the last play of the game twice that we know could probably stand on the field and put up a fight. How do we deal with this? What's the best solution with rewarding teams that go undefeated or just have one loss, as opposed to, but we know that team is better, and I don't want to see these guys get dusted in the playoff anymore?
Well, that's the expanded college football playoff. Once you get to 12, I hope it doesn't go to 16. Once you get to 12, then that answers your question, because if you can't make the top 11, which is going to be what it's going to be with the baby being thrown its bottle with the group of 5 champion, what's going to be. So if you can't get in the top 11, you don't really get a say in the matter. But look, it's maybe you can win. The thing about TCU and Tulane beating USC is that, maybe one of these teams can hang around and on the right day come up with a win in the first round. And to me, it's more about, for these teams, would a Tulane win the national championship this year in an expanded college football playoff? No. But could it have a shot to win a game and, get its chance? Yeah, absolutely. And that's really kind of what it's all about. That's what UCF was screaming about. That's what every team wants is, as bad as this was for TCU, they got their chance. And so now they can, live the rest of their lives knowing that, hey, they got there. They took a shot and lost. Okay. But it's better than thinking, oh, man, that could have been great. We could have had our chance at this. And on the flip side of this with Alabama, it's kind of conveniently forgotten that they needed a last stop to get by Texas A&M, and they were struggling against Arkansas, and they should have lost to Texas. And, so there's a deserve factor in this whole thing as well.
For sure. You basically just laid out my opening segment on Tuesday after the game. That's I think the expanded playoff is awesome. I think it allows teams that we know can't compete at the highest level to at least have something to play for and to get in and be on the biggest stage. It's the same thing we see in March every year when we let these 15 seeds play Duke. And they usually lose, but sometimes they win. But by the time we get to the Final Four, we have Kansas and Duke and Kentucky around, and that's what we want.
Yeah, that's the flip side of this, though, is my pure belief. I just want to see the 4 best teams play in the Final Four in college basketball. You show me a first or second round upset of Central Directional State beating Michigan State or something, and I'll show you 85-44 in the next round against Duke. So it's all cute, these upsets, and then you get 65-7 Georgia when it's game on. So, exactly. But again, it's part of the tournament. It's for there's still always going to be those people out there who scream, oh, well, this team could hang with anybody. This team, well, no, you can't. But sometimes some team will come up and choke like Michigan did, and you get your break.
All right, let's talk about a couple programs in the SEC. I'll let you go, kind of program trajectory. Billy Napier in Gainesville, what do you think of year one and where things are headed?
I was expecting more. I thought it would work, especially with a quarterback like Anthony Richardson and the guys that they had in place in the offensive line. But that defense didn't do anything. And so the offense is going to work. I'm a huge fan of Napier's. I think he's going to be a whale of a head coach once he gets these systems in place and gets everything going. But they cannot do this if their defense is half as bad as it was last year. They've got to really ramp that up fast to have any shot. But obviously going up, because they are not going to be a 6 and 7 program every single year.
Hugh Freeze at Auburn.
Okay. You know, what are you going to do? Like, what's Hugh Freeze? Like, it kind of gets lost in the narrative here. He didn't actually win anything at Ole Miss. I think he's been able to live off of beating Alabama a couple times, but like, okay, that was that, but he didn't do much of anything else. And it's not like LSU and Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee are going to quit playing college football now that he's there. But with that said, that's where the expanded college football playoff comes in, because had there been a 12-team playoff when old Gus Malzahn was there, I think Auburn makes it like 4 of their 8 years. So that's a good bar to set if you're Auburn, is to make the expanded playoff every once in a while.
Tennessee in a post-Hendon Hooker world.
Why not? You know, I was a Hendon Hooker fan, but look, you know, they're going to get every quarterback they want to come there and play in that offense. So, you know, why not think that all of a sudden that program, now that knows what it's doing, is going to be a whole lot better, because it kind of gets lost that they didn't have the guys there yet. That's all system to a certain extent, and a couple of really talented guys who ended up making it all go. Once Josh Heupel gets more of his guys in place, yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, when Heupel gets all his guys in place, we'll take away the divisions, and Tennessee Bama won't mean as much to me anymore. I've had to watch them lose to Bama 15 years in a row because they weren't any good, and now I don't need the win doesn't do anything for me. So there we are. Pete, we really appreciate some time. We'll do it again soon.
Absolutely, have a good one.
Pete Fiutak, College Football News. He's the publisher there. Does a great job. Always. We're in lockstep on this, and we'll get JD's thoughts on it coming up in the next segment. But I'm totally with it. I'm for TCU and Washington State and some of these teams that I know aren't going to be able to 1-85 to play Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and LSU. They shouldn't be in the national championship game, but if you just let them play to get in, maybe they spring an upset, maybe they don't. TCU beats Michigan. That's awesome. It was a great game, great story, great for that fan base, great for the program. That's awesome. I don't care about the little guy a ton, but I don't want to cut college football down to 8 teams. I need something else. So I think expanding the playoff, I'm right there with Pete. You let them get in, they're probably going to get beat in the first round like all the teams in the basketball tournament do, and then we'll let the big boys play at the end. I think it's perfect. I don't care that you think it waters down the product. If we have 2 byes and you have to play to try to get a bye, that's huge at the top. You say, well, then who cares about the Michigan-Ohio State game if it's a 12-team playoff? They're both going to get in. Yeah, but you're playing for a bye. That's pretty important. It doesn't water down the regular season. It just allows more teams to keep their hopes alive. I'm all for that. Appreciate Pete for coming on and chatting with us here on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday. That means JD PicKell of On3 Sports is going to join us a little later this time around. We'll get to JD next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal. Because they're Louisiana Loyal, they are elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. This month, we're telling you about Hunters for the Hungry. Since their start in 1994, Hunters for the Hungry has expanded throughout the entire state and now partners with all 5 major food banks in Louisiana. They've also got some awesome programs they do. Their freshly harvested game program, it allows hunters to harvest a deer and drop it at one of the partner processors around the state. That processor will handle the preparation and the packaging and then drop the bounty at a community food bank or a shelter. There's no cost to the hunter for this, and the processing fee is covered by Hunters for the Hungry. We've got so many hunters, so many fishermen in this state. They do a lot of work, and there are a lot of people who are hungry, and Hunters for the Hungry helps those hungry and those in need by partnering with hunters and fishers. Such a great organization. They're a champion of Louisiana, and that's why LWCC wants to elevate them and celebrate them in our great state. If you know a champion of Louisiana, whether it's a nonprofit or a person that's doing some awesome work, let us know, and we can talk about them right here on the Hunt Palmer Show each and every day for an entire month. Hunters for the Hungry, January's champion of Louisiana, presented by LWCC.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, Our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
This winter, meet the heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Season of Performance.
This winter, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the Integra.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born
NFL Wild Card Weekend. Tune in Saturday when the 49ers host the Seahawks at 3:30 p.m., immediately followed by the Jaguars and Chargers at 7:15. Then on Sunday, the Bills host the Dolphins at noon, the Vikings host the Giants at 3:30, and the Bengals host the Ravens at 7:15. Right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Every Wednesday, we chat with our guy, JD PicKell of On3 Sports, usually in the first hour. Move some things around, catching up with him here in hour number 2. JD, how are you, sir?
Man, doing phenomenal. Appreciate y'all accommodating me, but what a game that was. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but no, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. No, let's talk about it. I mean, what'd you see?
I mean, it was hopefully what I saw was not what a lot of young children saw. I mean, it was R-rated. It was spiteful. Every negative word you could use if you're a TCU fan, that's what it was. And it was just pure dominance. Like, I think the biggest thing that stood out to me from a game plan perspective, from the Georgia game to the Michigan game for TCU, is Georgia just went right after TCU. Like Georgia made no negotiations about what they were going to do offensively. They threw the ball around in the first couple plays, and not the first play, but the first drive. They kind of spread you out, and then they just attacked them with the power scheme and got downhill. Like, they dictated terms of the trenches to them very, very early. And TCU on that first drive, they had a shot to Sevian Banks, where Max Duggan scrambled out of the pocket, missed Sevian Banks, and he was open downfield. And at that moment, you're thinking, gosh, you may not get too many more of them. Like, you may not get too many more chances to try and get Georgia off balance. And, I mean, whether they connected on that play or not, I don't know if it would have mattered seeing the final score. But, yeah, I mean, Georgia executed to a T, and just pure dominance, the undisputed heavyweight champs once again.
Is it a good thing for the sport when the final score of the national championship game is 65-7?
No, it's not good for ratings. I would say this, though. I don't know if you roll anybody out there on that night and they beat Georgia. I would also say I don't think it's fair to blame the committee for the matchup we got. I think you can blame Michigan for throwing 2 pick sixes and having TCU in that game. You can blame Ohio State for not beating Georgia when they got them on the ropes. You can blame Tennessee and Clemson for not beating South Carolina, because the matchup we got was one that played out. Because going into Selection Sunday, everybody was saying if they don't put TCU in, that will just be so much SEC bias, and that will be, the Bama bump, and Nick Saban just pulling the strings behind the curtain. Like, that was everybody was saying. And then the line opened at 13.5 favoring Georgia, and people are buying out like it's going out of style. Everyone's got money on the Frogs, 2 touchdowns, no way. So, the result is unfortunate, I think, from like an entertainment standpoint. But I don't believe that we had the wrong teams in the national championship in that sense.
Where do you stand on the playoff and the size of it?
I love it. I think going to 12 is kind of knee-jerky to triple the field. I would also say there's a lot of variables that go into it, obviously, and I get that it's a money thing. For me, I have such a hard time jumping into the conversation when people start to throw out the ratings and the entertainment and once it becomes about that, I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Are we trying to just get the best TV product? Are we trying to just get the most entertaining thing on television? Or are we trying to really get the best team to be crowned the national champion? Because when you look at, the playoff era so far, I have a really hard time believing that the wrong team has ever won the national title. I think so far we've been perfect in terms of crowning a national champion, and we haven't had to go past 4 teams to do it. I also love the way it protects, November football, like rivalry weekend, Ohio State and Michigan going toe-to-toe for what we all thought at the time was essentially a spot in the playoff, but they ended up both backing in at the end. But what felt like a high-stakes playoff kind of atmosphere, like having that game be for a, hey, we'll see them both in the second round of the playoff. This is for a 3 seed versus a 7 seed, which I'm sure matters, but I very much so believe we're at the right spot now, and involving things that don't happen in between the white lines, I think is a little bit of a mistake.
Look, I've seen an excellent undefeated LSU team run into Alabama in the national championship game and get railroaded, so I was thrilled to not have to deal with them again in 2019. But would you rather see that team with Tua and Waddle and Ruggs and all those guys, or would you rather see in the playoff with a chance to win a national championship, would you rather see Washington or Michigan State or TCU? I mean, that's kind of where I stand on it, and I know you got to take care of your business during the regular season, but I think expanding it to 12 and getting all the good teams in there sounds good to me. And to that argument of, like, with the seeding, if you have 2 byes, you have 12 and you have 2 byes, that Michigan-Ohio State game could be for a bye, and I think that's a huge deal too.
No, it's definitely a big deal. I don't think at the end of the day, too, we're going to have all these games, and I promise you I'll be the first one watching all of them. Like, more football is going to be so fun. It's going to be a blast. Like, I'm not against that. I just think some of the arguments saying, hey, if you, would have been a better game if Alabama plays Georgia for the national title the other night. Like, yeah, for sure. I don't think it's a 65-7 game. I think it's probably more competitive. But kind of to your point, like, I guess it's just however you view the meritocracy of it. Like, I just think the whole narrative around expanding it for the little guys to get in is where I have an issue, because everyone was saying Group of 5 team will never get in. Cincinnati gets in. Everyone's saying, the little guys need a shot to get in. It's only these big resource schools that get in. TCU has much less resources than Alabama and Tennessee and all the other schools, and they found a way in because they handled business. So I'm with you in the sense that maybe there is a little bit of something to be said for having more of those teams in at the end of the season that are playing well. Like, if we should say Florida State couldn't have made some noise at the end of the year. But bottom line, we're going to 12. It'll be fun, but I would love to see it stay the way it has. So I think it's worked.
What's Kirby got cooking over there? What are we looking at over the next 10 years?
Man, they haven't finished outside the top 3 in terms of recruiting classes in the last, I want to say it's something ridiculous. Like, since at least 2018, they haven't been outside the top 3. So the talent's for sure there. They got to replace Stetson, which is going to be, I think, a little bit easier said than done because it is an NFL system. It is, complex, and he did so much for them, giving them in and out of plays. But I heard Pete Thamel say something that I very much agree with. It's so difficult to speak in absolutes because of just the variance with 18 to 22-year-olds. I think that's 100% on the money. But if we're placing the bet, I mean, Georgia looks like they're set up really well to do some exciting things the next couple of years. And I mean, I'd pick them right now to go for a three-peat. But again, they're gonna have to play the games, and crazy things happen in this sport, so it'll be fun.
Certainly will. I want to ask. Man, my mind just went totally blank there as I was looking for a question. JD PicKell of On3's YouTube channel, The Hard Count, is our guest here. I totally blanked out.
What do you think, huh? What do you think of the game?
Well, I thought it was awful to watch. Obviously, I thought TCU would stay in it, quite frankly. But I think the 12-team playoff is awesome. I think it's going to allow more teams opportunity to get in, and so they're more engaged late in the season. Less opt-outs, that kind of thing. You allow the TCUs and the Cincinnatis and the Michigan States and the Washingtons in. They have their chance. They probably get beat, and then by the end, we get the big dogs because they've proven themselves. It's the same type of concept with the NCAA basketball tournament, where we let Kent State and Weber State and whoever else in, and they get their shot at Duke or Gonzaga. They usually get beat, and then by the time we get to the Final Four, we've got the big boys in, and I think that's going to be what happens when you go to 12.
I think that the pushback on that from this year will be people saying, "Hey, TCU beat the big boys. I mean, they were touchdown dogs in Michigan, and they handled their business." And that's going to be, I think, the pushback is TCU and Michigan kind of being, in some way, I think it depends on how you look at it. It can be the argument against the 4 team, or it can be the argument for the 4 team, depending on how you view TCU handling business against Michigan.
What's Stetson Bennett's legacy?
Man, it took me a while to ruminate on this one, but I thought about the same thing throughout the week in L.A. I think he's the greatest of all time to come through Georgia. I know Herschel Walker exists, and he may not be the best player, like in terms of just talent. Like, you're going to line him up and say, who's got the best ability. It's probably Herschel. But Stetson Bennett, what he did with that program, where they were before him, his story, him continuing to choose Georgia, his loyalty, I think he's the greatest to come through Athens, and he will never pay for a beverage ever. Yeah.
And they got plenty of them in Athens. I've had them, and it is a wonderful place to be. I know where I was going to go there, and there's a reason that I just couldn't get back to it. It's Florida State. You mentioned Florida State at the end of this season. Jordan Travis is coming back. Jared Verse is coming back. Their transfer portal pickups have been pretty significant. That matchup with LSU and Florida State in the opening weekend feels like maybe all eyes on Orlando.
Oh, it should be. It should be. Get the College Game Day theme song ready. I mean, that's going to be an absolute blast. If Jordan Travis, if he takes another step, like he took a big step from 21 to 2022, takes another step, I mean, Florida State's going to be a team we got to talk about in that playoff.
JD, it's been a blast chatting with you all year. Really appreciate you being flexible with us and joining us every week.
Appreciate you. Have a great one, man.
Sure will. That is JD PicKell of On3 Sports. Check his stuff out. The Hard Count on On3's YouTube channel does an awesome job and has been with us every Wednesday since back in August. So we certainly appreciate JD for being with us. He's been fantastic. Let's come back and close it out with a little Take It or Leave It. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. How much different would your home be with a brand new closet, a brand new bathroom? David Duvall and his team have been in business for 3 decades doing just that. Look, it's not a great time to move right now. Doesn't mean you can't improve your living situation. What would a new bathroom do for you? Maybe you want to do an entire new bathroom renovation. Floors, plumbing, shower, the works. David Duvall and his team can do that. And they're a one-stop shop. You don't have to call 4 different contractors to get the job done. David handles it all. Maybe it's something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion. Quick, affordable, and can change the way that your bathroom looks in your home. David Duvall and his team will do it on the closet side of things. Maybe your closet's too small. Maybe it's just not organized properly. Maybe you just don't know. It's just cluttered and it's a mess. Let David Duvall and his team come in there and do it. And if you tell him that the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets, you're not going to pay for the removal of your current unit or the installation and the labor that comes with that. You're just going to pay for the unit. One Bath and Closets is your one-stop shop for your bathroom or your closet. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll recap LSU, Florida, and hoops, preview Pell, Celtics, and Moranto McKenzie in studio to preview the fight of the century. It's AFR 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Just read on the Twitter wire that the Houston Texans have asked the Saints for permission to speak to Sean Payton. Sure, you can talk to him all you want. There is no shot Sean Payton is going to Houston. That dumpster fire of an organization, absolutely not. Now, they got the second pick, so that sounds great in theory, but that is not happening. I don't see it. All right, let's do some take it or leave it, Taylor.
Yeah, let's do it. The Miami Heat went 40 for 40 from the free throw line, won by just 1 point. That's tough. Greatest free throw performance of all time. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. That's the best ever. It set the record. It brought back some childhood memories that I had to look up on the internet earlier. In 1997, Ronnie McCullum of the Centenary Gentlemen made 60 free throws in a row. And I was there when he missed his first one. He actually missed the front end and the next one. He'd made 60 in a row and missed 2 in a row for Centenary. Their entire offense was just give the ball to Ronnie McCullum, and never in my life have free throws been as dramatic as going to the Centenary games during that 2-week stretch, because every time McCullum went to the line, he had to make it, and he missed it. The whole air came out of the gym. There were only probably 150 people there, but it was devastating, and that never happened last night. Heat 40 for 40, so Ronnie McCullum has him beat, but that's a pretty impressive go.
All right, I think everyone already knows your answer on this one. The PGA Tour's Netflix documentary Full Swing will debut on February 15th. Take it or leave it.
I will take it, and I will take it strongly. This is going to be incredible. Netflix followed the PGA Tour around for all of last season. Of course, that's when Liv came in. Golfers are leaving left and right. Tiger's trying to play with can't walk. The whole thing, it's going to be incredible. It's the same people that did that NASCAR one or whatever, where it was like learn to drive or whatever. It's going to be phenomenal. I cannot wait until this debuts. It's year-long stuff. I don't know how many episodes are in it, but I cannot wait to watch Full Swing. So I'm way in on that.
Georgia's offensive line was eating wings from one of the on-field suites during the second half of the national title game. Wings during the game, take it or leave it.
I'll take it. If it's 65-7 and one of the guys, the Georgia guys that's got a suite that's on field level that you got access to is dishing out some wings, maybe some honey barbecues, maybe some mild, maybe some medium, maybe some spicy, hot. Sure, have at it. You've earned it. You're up 50, literally up by 50. So, yeah, I think you can do that. It was actually a pretty funny video if you hadn't seen it. Georgia's players literally walking over to the guy's suite during the game, and he's just handing out wings. Impressive.
Buc-ee's is coming to Louisiana, with Ruston becoming the home to the mega gas station. Buc-ee's in the boot. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it, but I never go through Ruston. Put that thing in Slidell or something so I can hit it on the way to the beach on the front end. I love Buc-ee's. I go, they got the one on the way to Gulf Shores now, and every time I go to Houston, I go as well. It's not like a must stop for me. I will make it if I'm by myself. It's just, they got some pretty good food in there. They've got a bajillion drink options. They've got a bajillion gas pumps. I know it can get a little bit crowded. I know it's not for everybody. It's like turning a gas station into Walmart, but I'm pro Buc-ee's, so whenever I am making a road trip, I generally will stop in. The breakfast food's pretty good. Barbecue's not terrible. Beats like, grabbing a Kit Kat or something. I'm pro Buc-ee's. I just wish it wasn't going in Ruston because I never take 20 from there. I think the last time I was on 20, would have been my bachelor party, which would have been November of 2022 when I was actually in Ruston playing golf at Squire Creek. But I'm never going to go to that Buc-ee's because I'm never in Ruston, so that stinks.
Yeah, Buc-ee's is solid. I'll tell you what, the one in Gulf Shores, that one does get a little too crazy. There's people tailgating in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's much.
They have more tailgaters than most Division II football schools do. Former Kentucky running back
Cavassier.
Cavassier Smoke has committed to Colorado. Smoke in Boulder, take it or leave it.
See the little pun there? I think you're going to take it. There's plenty of smoke these days in Boulder. That is well documented. There's also plenty of football players that are flocking to Boulder. So Deion's putting together some more talent than Colorado's having. Well, do I think that's going to work and they're going to win whatever conference they're in for the next 5 or 8 years? I don't. Are they going to be better than they were this past year? I think they probably will be because they were awful. And at that point, you're just trying to get some interest in what you're doing, and they've certainly accomplished that. So Cavassier Smoke to Boulder, that's just too funny not to put in take it or leave it because there's a lot of weed smoking in Boulder. All right, that's it for take it or leave it. Get you primed for some SEC hoops tonight. There are a couple of games to be on the lookout for. I'll give you some picks so you can bet against my picks. Battle of the Bulldogs. Mississippi State is in Athens to play Georgia. Mississippi State is a 2.5-point favorite. I like Georgia to cover that number. I'll take the 2.5 points at home. Thank you very much in the Battle of the Bulldogs. Huge one at 6 o'clock on ESPN2. I'll be locked into this one. Very much looking forward to it. It's Alabama and Arkansas from Bud Walton. Arkansas is a 1-point favorite. I will take the Tide on the road to go ahead and win that game. Obviously, you're going to take Alabama there as they are the best team in the SEC. We'll see if Arkansas can punch up a little bit and get things on the right track. They've been famous for that under Musselman of kind of finding their way. It actually happened inside the PMAC last year where they just couldn't get anything going. They came here without Musselman and won the game. And they kind of took off and ended up obviously in the Elite Eight. We'll see if they can kind of springboard with tonight. But I'll take Alabama to beat Arkansas in Bud Walton Arena. And then Missouri is at Texas A&M in a Big 12 game. A&M's a 4.5-point favorite. I like Missouri to cover that number there. They're good on offense. I think they'll score a little bit on A&M's tough defense. And I don't love A&M's offense at all. So if you're going to give me what I think is the better team and the points, even though it's on the visiting floor, I will take Missouri. So now you all have picks you can fade. I've got Mississippi State, I've got Bama, I've got Missouri. So do with that what you will. That's going to do it here for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com, on the On Demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube. Those of y'all on YouTube, throw us a like if you would. Subscribe to the channel. You can get all our content. Every show uploads to YouTube immediately after the show is done. but also Taylor does a great job of cutting up some 10, 12-minute clips each and every day. If you subscribe to the channel, you can get those and digest those any way that you might. Today's show, locked and loaded with basketball. In the first hour, we talked about LSU's loss to Florida last night in the PMAC. Then Matthew Brune of On 3 joined us to talk basketball and a little bit of football as well. He wrote a piece that was breaking down Deuce Chestnut, LSU's new cornerback. By the way, Deuce Chestnut is a phenomenal name. I'll enjoy saying that. And Matthew did a good piece on him. And then I gave you my SEC power rankings for basketball before getting to a little baseball. Nate Ackenhausen, number 2 junior college transfer in the country by D1 Baseball. But I gave you some thoughts on LSU's left-handed pitching at the end of hour number 1. To start hour number 2, which was loaded with football, we talked about the quarterbacks in the playoffs. Studs in the AFC, scrubs kind of in the NFC, as much as scrubs as quarterbacks in the NFL can be. Pete Fiutak and JD PicKell talking college football in the second hour as well before Take It or Leave It. So catch all that on demand if you wish. Jimmy Ott's Game Time going to come at you from 6 to 8 this evening. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home on After Further Review. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We're back Thursday, same time, same place, 1 to 3, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.